Grimm's Fairy Tales, retold in one-syllable words, by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. The Goose Girl. There once lived an old queen who had one child, a fair, sweet girl. This princess was to wed a king's son who had lived a great way off. When the time came, the queen gave her much gold and gems, and a maid to wait on her and take her to the prince she was to wed. To each she gave a horse to ride, and that of the princess was named Falada, and it could talk. But the maid was false, and on the way she made the princess get off her horse and change her rich clothes for her own plain ones. Then, by threats that she would kill her if she would not do so, she made the princess take an oath that she would not tell of the change that had been made. When they came to the end of their ride, the king's son came out to meet them, and took the maid from her horse as if she were his bride that was to be. He led her up the steps, while the true princess was left in the courtyard. The king saw her there, and as he saw how sweet and fair her face was, and how soft and white her hands, he went in haste to ask the bride who it was she had brought with her. "Oh, I brought her with me to serve me on the road," said the false bride. "Give her some work to do, so that she may not waste her time." The king knew of no work to give her but to help a boy named Karl, whom he had to take care of geese. So the real princess was made a goose girl. The false bride was in fear that the horse Falada would tell on her, and she soon asked the prince to have it put to death. The prince told a man to kill the horse, but the real princess heard of it and gave the man a piece of gold to hang the head of the horse in an archway through which she had to drive the geese each morning. The next morning, as she and Karl passed through the archway, she said to the head, "O Falada, hanging high." And the head said, "O young princess passing by, if thy fate thy mother knew, her fond heart would break for you." They went on to a field where the geese fed all day, and the princess sat down and began to comb her hair. It looked like pure gold, and Karl wished to pull some of it out. Then the princess sang, "Blow, blow, wind, blow, take Karl's hat in the air, and do not let him catch it till I have combed my hair." A strong wind did take Karl's hat, and he had to run to catch it. When he came back, the hair was all combed and put up. Then Karl was vexed, and would not speak to the goose girl. The next day the same things took place, and Karl was so vexed that when they reached home, he went to the king and told him how the head of the horse spoke to the goose girl, and how she made the wind blow his hat off, and he had to run to catch it. The king told Karl to go with her to the fields next day, and he himself went and sat in the dark arch and heard what the horse's head said. Then he went after them to the fields and hid in a bush, and they saw with his own eyes the goose girl and boy drive in their geese, and in a short time the girl took down her hair that shone like gold, and he heard her say, "Blow, blow, wind, blow, take Karl's hat in the air, and do not let him catch it till I have combed my hair." Then the king felt a gust of wind come, which took off Karl's hat, so that he had to run a long way to catch it, while the goose girl combed out her hair and put it up in braids, before he could get back. The king went home, and that night sent for the goose girl, and told her all he had seen and heard, and asked her what it meant. "That I dare not tell you," she said. "My heart is full of woe, but I can tell the cause to no one, for I had to take an oath that I would not do so." "If you will not tell it to me," said the king, "tell it to that fireplace." And then he left her. The princess crept in the fireplace and began to weep and pour out her heart. "Here I sit," she said, "the child of a king, yet a false maid took my royal clothes from me, and took my place as bride at the side of the prince, while I must go out and watch the geese. Oh, if my mother knew of this, it would break her heart." But the king had stood near the door and heard all she said. He told her to come out, and he had her dressed in rich clothes, and then she was so fair it was a joy to look at her. The king sent for his son and told him that he had the wrong bride, while the true bride was here, she who had been the goose girl. The prince was glad when he saw how sweet and good she was, and a great feast was at once laid. The true bride was placed on one side of the prince, and the false one on the other. The false one was so puffed up with pride that she did not know the true one. When all were through at the feast, the king told the tale the princess had told in the fireplace, and then he asked the false bride what should be done to one that had been so wicked. The false bride did not see that it was a trap for her, and she said, "Such a one should be put in a cask with spikes in it and dragged up and down the streets by horses till she is dead." "You are that one," said the king, "and as you have said, so shall it be done." Then the prince wed his true bride, and they lived in great joy and peace. End of chapter 9. Recording by Brandon Fletcher.